Hi guys, we're picking up where we left off on that review packet for Unit 1 Rational Numbers, and we're starting off with problem 23. In problem 23, we're asked to simplify the following expression. We have negative 2.2 times negative 8.5 times negative 6/4. Now the first thing I notice that I have some numbers in decimal form, other numbers in fractional form, plus we have to deal with negative numbers. So when I'm doing a problem like this, I usually want to go ahead and take care of the signs first so I don't forget about that, and then I will multiply the numbers as um, without the signs to make the multiplication easier. So here I notice that I have 1, 2, 3 negative signs. If I have an odd amount of negative signs, I know that my overall answer will be negative. If I have an even amount of negative signs and I'm multiplying, then I know that my overall answer will be positive. But just to prove that to you, if I go across from left to right, negative times negative will give me a positive, and then positive times negative will get me right back to negative. So whichever method you use to come up with the signs, your overall answer should be negative. Next, what I want to do is to decide, should I put everything in decimal form or should I put everything in fractional form? Believe it or not, I think at this point I would put everything as a fraction, just because multiplying 2.2 and 8.5 and then taking that um, product and multiplying it times the decimal equivalent of 6/4 could be a bit of work without the calculator, but so I think I'm going to try it with changing everything to fraction form, and you of course can make the decision on what you think will be easier. Okay, so 2 and 2/10, and again I'm going to leave the signs off because I already took care of the signs, so I can write 2.2 as 2 and 2/10 times 8.5. I can just write that as 8 and 1/2, and times 6/4. Now I'm going to take all of this and change them into improper fractions. So 10 times 2 is 20, plus 2 more is going to give me 22/10 times 8. 2 times 8 is 16, plus 1 more gives me 17/2, and then 6/4. Again, I left off the signs because we took care of the signs at the beginning. So now when I go across here, I can go ahead and do some simplification up front. I see that I have 2 in the bottom and 6 in the top. These can both be divided by 2. So 2 divided by 2, I can cross it out and replace it with 1. 6 divided by 2, cross it out and replace it with 3. I also notice that 22 and 10 are both even, so I can divide top and bottom by 2. So 10 divided by 2 will give me 5. 22 divided by 2 will give me 11. And then I'm just going to check to see if I see anything else in common between top and bottom. Nothing in common between 11 and 5, 11 and 1, or 11 and 4. Nothing in common between 17 and 5, 17, 1, 17 and 4. Nothing in common between 3 and 5, 3 and 1, 3 and 4. So I know I have everything in simplest form. So now I can go ahead and multiply across the bottom. I just chose the bottom because I see that the numbers are easier to deal with. So 5 times 1 is 5, times 4 is 20. And here I'm going to change the order a little bit because I know that commutative property means that I can multiply in any order. 3 times 11 seems much easier to deal with, so I'm going to do 3 times 11 is 33. And then finally, this is the only thing that I have to do some actual calculation with. 33 times 17, and actually I'm going to flip it because that's going to make it just a little bit easier if I have the 17, the 33 on top. So, or 33 on the bottom, 17 times 33. 3 times 7 is 21. Carry the 2. 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 more is 5. Then X out this next step or next place because I want to start in the tens place. So again, 3 times 7 is going to give me, or 3 times 7 is going to give me 21. Carry the 2, 3 times 1 is 3, plus 2 more is 51. Add these together, so I get 1, 6, 5, so that's 561 over 20. And this is a lot, this is not too bad to have to divide by. Okay, so 20 goes into 56 twice. 2 times 20 is 40. 56 minus 40 is 16. Bring down the 1. 20 goes into 161 8 times. 8 times 20 is 160. I have 1 left over. And if I want to keep going, I'm going to add a 0, bring it down. 20 can't go into 10. And of course, bring that decimal up. 20 can't go into 10, so 20 goes into 10 0 times. Add 1 more 0, bring that down. 20 goes into 100 5 times. 5 times 20 is 100. And I'm done. So I can say that the decimal equivalent of this is 28.05. Okay, so to simplify this fraction, or to simplify this expression, the total expression should be equal to negative 28.05. And of course, you could have changed all of these into decimals and then multiplied them out, and you should end up with the same answer. Let's take a look at the second problem. So it's asking us to circle the following products that will give a negative value. Now, to figure out whether or not I'm going to end up with a negative value, I don't even need to worry about the numbers. All I need to do is figure out what the signs will be. So in problem A, I have 3 negative signs. Remember, we said if we're multiplying and we have an odd number of negative signs, our overall answer will be negative. If we're multiplying numbers together and we have an even number of negative signs, our overall answer will be positive. So I see 1, 2, 3. 3 is odd. Therefore, my answer for problem A should be negative. Now, if I look at problem B is 12 times 0 times 14. Since I'm multiplying times this 0, the entire answer is going to be 0. And 0 is neither negative nor positive, so therefore there's no sign attached to this. When I look at problem C, again, I'm going to count up the number of negative signs, and if I have an even amount of negative signs, my overall answer is positive. If I have an odd number of negative signs, my overall answer is negative. So here I see 1, 2 negative signs, so therefore 2 is even, so my overall answer would have to be positive. And then finally, I have the quantity of negative 2 to the 5th power, and that just means negative 2 times negative 2 times negative, let me redo that one, times negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. So that means 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm multiplying 2 times itself 5 times. So now I can count up the number of negative signs. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 negative signs. That 5 is an odd number. Therefore, my overall answer will be negative. So the questions that have an overall negative are A and D. Okay, so now let's go ahead and take a look at the next problem, problem 25. On the first day camping, a group hiked at a rate of 2 1/4 miles per hour for 2.5 hours before taking a break. How many miles had the group hiked before the break? Well, what we want to do is we can use units to kind of help us to understand this problem. So if I know that the group has hiked 2 1/4 mile, I'm going to write this as 2 1/4 miles. And that word per means that you're going to divide 2 1/4 miles per hour. Now, what's not there is that we mean in 1 hour. If there's nothing there, you can assume we're talking about 1 hour. So we can rewrite 2 1/4 miles per hour as 2 1/4 miles at the top divided by 1 hour at the bottom. And we know that we did this for 2.5 hours. So we know that we want our final answer in miles. And so to get rid of the hours, what we're actually doing is multiplying by 2.5 hours. So we're going to multiply by 2 1/2 hours. And since we want to keep both of them in fraction form, we can actually just put this over 1. Notice what's happening to the units of hours. I have hours in my numerator and hours in my denominator. So that unit of hours cancels out, and I'm left with just the unit of miles. Since that's what I'm looking for in my final problem, I can go ahead and stop. Also, I notice that I have both ones in the denominators, so that means that I can just ignore the denominators. So really what I'm doing is I'm just simply multiplying 2 1/4 times 2 1/2. So from here, I can either change both of these into a decimal or leave them as fractions. I'm going to go ahead and leave them as a fraction. So I'm going to change this to improper fraction. 2 times or 4 times 2 is 8 plus 1 more is 9 fourths. 2 times 2 is 4 times 1 more is 5 halves. I'm going to check to see if I can cancel anything at the beginning. Nothing in common between 9 and 4 or 9 and 2. Nothing in common between 5 and 4 or 5 and 2, so I can't do any simplification. So I'm just going to multiply across the top. So 9 times 5 will give me 45. Multiply across the bottom, 4 times 2 will give me 8. And I can simplify that down to just 8 goes into 45 5 times with 5 left over. So I can call this 5 5/8. And if you happen to have changed this into a decimal, you could also report this as 5.625 miles. So to answer this question, again, when we're dealing with word problems, we want to go ahead and answer the question in a complete sentence. We can say that the group hiked 5 5/8 miles before the break. Okay, and there's the answer. Let's look at our last problem. We have that Jamie buys $12.65 worth of groceries. If he pays with a $20 bill, how much will he get back as change? So we know that we're going to give the cashier $20. And I'm going to go ahead and write this as a decimal. And from that, they're going to take out $12.65. So taking out means we're subtracting. We've lined up the decimals. We want to borrow, so we're going to change this 20 to 19. This becomes 10. We can borrow from that. That will become 9. So 10 minus 5 is 5. 9 minus 6 will give me 3. 9 minus 2 will give me 7. And 1 minus 1 is 0. So we can say that he will get back $7.35 as change. So again, we can just type that out. Jamie will get $7.35 back as change. All right, so I hope that was helpful, and I'll see you guys in the next video when we will continue taking a look at the Unit 1 review problems.